Very nice. Hopping into game number 1 of the last semifinal match. This is with the green Zerg in the bottom left of this map. We have ccboice, and spawning as the enemy of ccboice in the top right, we have the purple Zerg of cryomancer. Once again, as we saw in last Saturday's matches, cryomancer starting out with the double extractor, looking for an early tech game, getting plenty of gas early on. Probably a little bit too much gas, but it will allow him to have a stockpile to get out a lot of early units, a lot of those higher tech units, allowing him to have a stronger defense in case we do see any highly aggressive moves coming out of ccboice early on. That being said, it does look like ccboice is laying down his natural expansion at the 18 supply mark, which is pretty standard for Zerg, I think. You can get it about the 16, I think, is what a lot of builds normally do, but 18 hatch, 18 pool, and usually, 18 extractor. It's also a pretty standard timing. Does look like cryomancer also has his spawning pool down, but we don't see any hatchery just yet. Once again, he's opted to start mining that gas a little bit early. Also to note, ccboice is sending out 2 Overlord Scouts. Normally, in a ZVT in particular, your Overlord Scouts are able to get the lay of the land pretty early on, but they are relegated to these pillars where ground armies can't see where they're at, because the Terran Marine is really good at shooting things that are above them, aka really slow overlords. That being said, however, Zerg doesn't really have anything until the queens come out that can shoot up. So Overlord Scouts have a little bit more freedom, are able to get into the base a little bit easier and see what each other are doing. So in a Zerg versus Zerg, you'll often see the Overlord Scouts being a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more present out on the map, to give that extra information. That being said, ccboice is still staying cautious, doesn't want to get caught out by a queen moving out too far. But we do see that instead of a queen, cryomancer's actually opted to go for a super early lair with this early gas that he has been banking. We see almost 650 as the Roach Warren comes down and the lair is about to finish up. We see lair just being started from ccboice. So we do see our first tech, what's this called? Like the split. As 4 slow Zerglings of cryomancer move out across the map, he has opted to go for the Roach Warren. He is throwing down a Baneling Nest to go with this as well, but ccboice has gone the full Baneling route. Speed for his Zerglings is out and ready already. ccboice does have a larger number of these Zerglings, and they are going to be faster. So these scouts from cryomancer are going to be taken out. They are going to definitely be able to tell, yes, there is a secondary expansion out, and they are going to be able to tell cryomancer, like, hey, there's a lot of stuff coming your way. Infestation pit's down, Baneling Nest is down, but 4 Zerglings is all that is here to defend. It does look like this base is going to go down pretty fast, and it does not look like he got the cancel off on that. So that is 300 minerals that ccboice was able to take out. Looks like he's targeting down the Baneling Nest, not prioritizing the probes necessarily, but just going after the mineral, or some on the mineral line, some on the tech buildings. As these roaches pop out, there are just a lot of Zerglings. It's going to be rough to try and take these guys out as the roaches get surrounded. More Zerglings on the way. The drones. I bet if they pulled, they could they could try and take out these few Zerglings that are in the mineral line right now, but opting instead to just wait for the Zerglings to pop out, and ccboice pulls out, kind of regrouping, taking out the straggling army units for cryomancer, and it just looks like there's a few too many Zerglings here for cryomancer to try and defend. He went so early with this tech stuff, but wasn't quite able to get the units out in time, as this early Zergling aggression turns out to be just a little bit too much. And I think that might be the fatal flaw for this first game from cryomancer. Just too much tech too fast. Didn't build up enough of a standing army.
I don't think he knows that queens can spread creep.
That's a good point.
I think
That's a good question.
Layer so the overlords can drop their
interesting. Creep. That's something we'll definitely have to.
Yeah.
Just like the kilometer and the liberator stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's a valuable piece of information, but it does look like we are just waiting here for the end of game number 1 as ccboice takes a convincing first game. It has begun, game number 2. Getting the good luck, have fun in the chat in the bottom left-hand corner. Did I pick the same map twice? Dang it. I was just spamming after that brief technical interlude. In any case, spawning in the bottom left of the same exact map as we were just on, we have the purple Zerg of Cryomancer. His opponent, spawning in the top right, is ccboice. Feeling kind of like a basketball match at this point, where halftime the players have switched sides. And other than that, the whole map is just exactly the same. We are hopping into game number 2. ccboice with the just the slightly higher Zergling count at the beginning, which quickly snowballed as Zerg versus Zerg matches tend to do. ccboice is up 1-0 in this best of 3 semifinal match. We do see cryomancer single gas this time. Spawning pool is down. Once again, ccboice with the early expansion before spawning pool into extractor. We did note that last game, cryomancer, with that early gas that he was stockpiling since the beginning, went up as far as infestation pit and was about to start hive before a dozen and a half Zerglings came knocking on his door. It does look like he's delayed that second gas slightly this time, just enough to get that mineral count a little bit higher, saving up for an earlier army, saving up for possibly an expansion this time. Possibly not. Maybe we'll see just a one base roach push, or possibly if he does take both gases super early, he could do some Mutalisk play, which is always a fun ZVZ twist that we might see. But it does look like ccboice also going roaches this time, switching it up from his purely Zergling. I think last time he was gearing up for a Zergling Baneling, but just kept pumping Zerglings for the most part in that early game last time. Cryomancer setting down his natural expansion. The expansion of ccboice was early, and it is up and running at this point. Queens popping out from both bases. Looks like cryomancer not taking any chances. A nice defensive spine crawler. I think this is a really good option, especially in a Zerg versus Zerg, just to stay on the safe side. Especially in the early game, a spine crawler, unless you get it in a really bad position and get completely surrounded by Zerglings, it just does so much damage against low-tier armies and can really help survivability in the early game, especially in a ZVZ, because of, we saw last game just how swingy these matches tend to be. Zerg units are fast and cheap, and they hit like trucks. They're paper thin, but man, if you get even like 2 or 3 extra Zerglings, that advantage just continues to snowball. So, in general, defensive structures are a huge investment of early game resources that could be placed, into extra bases or technology or a greater army. But in the early game, I do think that a spine crawler, especially like just 1 or 2 to defend your first couple bases, if you are worried about possibly being overrun, the games, especially ZVZs, don't usually last long enough for that to be a bad investment. It's usually worth it because of how cutthroat ZVZ fights can be, and you need any advantage that you can. Does look like ccboice this game a little bit slower. He hasn't quite done as much aggressive scouting with the Zerglings. Same thing for cryomancer. Both players really just staying defensive. ccboice has started to work out his creep spread. Very impressive already, moving out across the map. One thing that Braden was mentioning last game is or between games, I guess, was the vision that creep gives you. In a Zerg versus Zerg, creep isn't super as important as in other matches because the movement speed bonus and the health regeneration bonus applies to enemy and allied units. So in some respects, it's a win-win / lose-lose to spend the time to grow this creep. But the one thing that you really do gain is the vision. And especially if ccboice is going for this, slower, relatively slower with the Roach Ravager versus a potential Zergling composition, he will really want to have that defensive creep set up so he can move his slower army into the positions that will be able to defend, and additionally be able to see them coming when those Zergling run-bys do start to happen later on. And it does look like cryomancer is building up a mostly Zergling defense force so far. Baneling Nest and Roach Warren are on the way. A nice mineral bank. It does look like these queens not quite using their injection ability, as we do see the mana for both of these queens is starting to grow. But luckily these days, chain injections, if you forget for a few minutes, you can just spam the V button and chain up those injections, and they'll all just stack up over and over again, and then the larva will flow, if that makes any sense. But it does look like a scouting force of Zerglings from ccboice does look like it's gearing up for a possible run-by if this army does decide to move out. Some defensive banelings here are going to be huge if the Zerglings do end up running into this secondary base for the purple Zerg.
Now, I noticed Cryomancer doesn't have the metabolic boost upgrade.
It's
that
true.
Be a big hindrance for an army that's primarily Zerglings and Banelings right now?
It's true. Zerglings definitely need the metabolic boost speed upgrade in order to be effective offensive units. Like this for scouting, they don't really need it. It's nice to have. They will not be able to run away if the faster Zerglings do get up on them. But as defensive units, I mean, the Zerglings don't really have to move. So
yeah, the Banelings just demonstrated how little they have to move to be effective.
Exactly. But I will say, if Cryomancer ever does want to make an attack, that is a very important upgrade, just to be able to either like get in, sneak through the cracks, or to be able to run away and engage, be able to pick your engagements. If you don't get the speed upgrades, and this goes for both Zerglings and for Roaches, anything with a speed upgrade, especially in a mirror matchup, if you go up against an army that they have it and you don't, it's not going to end well, even if your army is bigger, just because you know you've given up the option to choose whether or not you're going to take an engagement or wait for a better one. But yeah, it does look like that metabolic boost upgrade has just been not slept on necessarily. It could just be that, he made those initial Zerglings to protect against any initial stuff, and he doesn't intend to make any more except for Banelings, which is a viable strategy and saves you, 100 gas. But to be honest, like, he's floating more than enough to just get the upgrade in case it ever comes up. Zerglings are also a great rallying unit, to where if you are on the attack and you're just trying to throw stuff at the enemy as fast as you can, if you find that advantage, being able to rally Zerglings all the way across the map and instantly reinforce is a great option just to have in the toolkit as a Zerg. So yeah, in general, even if you don't intend to get the Zerglings as a major like force in your army, it's a great like just in case thing to get. It does look like the third base is going down for the purple Zerg. Meanwhile, the third is down and the fourth is on the way and the fifth. Oh my goodness. Our green Zerg has spread creep all the way across the map and is feeling very comfortable that should an attack move out at any time, this poor Overlord is dangerously close to this flock of Mutalisks, and it does look like he is going to be found out. But green is feeling very confident in their defensive ability, and because of this, they are just throwing down hatcheries every which way. And this is nice. You don't even have to necessarily throw drones at this, but just to have these established, have that creep, have that vision, because of the creep highway that has been created here. ccboice can move to defend any of these, or choose not to if there's a better tactical decision to be made there. But does look like he is going on the offensive at this point. Lots of Mutalisks here for Cryomancer, but there's also just so many Hydralisks, and they just tear through those light armor flying units. And this is just such a formidable army. The Roaches and Ravagers are just such tanks. You kind of need your own Roaches to be able to defend against something this like meaty. And it does look like the natural expansion does go down for Cryomancer. No drones at the third base. It does look like we are on just a sliver of a base in the main for Cryomancer. 0 army left. Third base goes down. Nothing there to defend it. A single infester. Can he get a fungal growth off before the inevitable comes for him? Does not look like he is. That infester also goes down without a fight. The final Spinecrawler Queen combination, but this is just too much. And ccboice moves on to the final round.